What's new in CloudBees CI 2.414.2.2? On September 20th, CloudBees CI 2.414.2.2 was released. In this video, we're going to be reviewing the changes in that release. Also on September 20th, Jenkins LTS 2.414.2 was released. On September 21st, I did a video with Mark Waite about what's new in Jenkins LTS 2.414.2. If you'd like more details about that release, the link to that video is down in the description. If you've never taken a look at the CloudBees CI release notes, let me show you how to get there. We're going to start at docs.cloudbees.com. Under documentation, we'll go to CloudBees CI. Then on the left nav, click on the documentation dropdown and go to release notes. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see that the latest version is 2.414.2.2. Now notice this important block here at the top of the page. If you skip versions when you upgrade, you need to refer to the previous versions of the release notes for any relevant known issues or upgrade notes. So what does that mean? Well, let's say we're going to be upgrading to this latest 2.414.2.2, but let's also assume that we're still running 2.401.2.5. That means I would need to go through the release notes for 2.401.2.6, 2.401.3.3, and so on until we get up to 2.414.2.2. As a CloudBees CI client, we recommend an assisted update to help make the update process easier and simpler. There's a link down in the description about how to get help for an assisted update. Now you'll notice here with the latest, not only is 2.414.2.2 a security release, but there's also a big red block here. And what this big red block is a big warning. And in this case, there is a breaking change introduced with configuration as code, or CASC. So if you are using CASC for controllers, you'll want to review this and make the changes that are necessary in order to not have this change break you. Now, a couple of other items about this release. For this release, for CloudBees CI for modern cloud platforms, Kubernetes 1.26 is now supported, but also support for Kubernetes 1.21 has been dropped. Also, Red Hat OpenShift 4.12 is supported from this version onwards. Now, first off, we're going to take a look at the release notes for traditional platforms, and then we'll go over and take a look at the release notes for modern cloud platforms, calling out just the items for modern cloud platforms. So if we take a look at the release notes here, first off, we already know this is a security release. If you take a look at the security advisory that was published along with this release, what we'll see is there are a number of fixes for configuration as code, and also some other items that are core to CloudBees CI. Be sure to review this full security advisory before doing your upgrade. Now let's go ahead and go back over to the release notes. We've already seen this big red box that was published on the top page, so we won't go back into that. We'll also notice there were some dependencies updated to multiple plugins for security purposes. So there was a Guava update, there was a JSON Smart update, and also a few other libraries that were updated within plugins to make them more secure. Now for this release, there is one big new feature. Never in the past for either Jenkins or CloudBees CI has there been active high availability. That is now available with this release for not only CloudBees CI for modern cloud platforms, but also for CloudBees CI for traditional platforms. Now if you take a look at the bullets that are underneath this item, you have controller failover. So that means you can have multiple replicas running of a CloudBees CI controller. And if the job is running on one of the controllers, then it will continue to run on the other controller if the other controller goes down. The way to think about this is under the third item for load balancing. Even though you have multiple replicas, consider that one logical controller. Now, if you're running CloudBees CI for modern cloud platforms, you also get one extra feature. And that feature is horizontal scalability. Now, what that means is you can set an upper limit on the number of replicas that you want to actually have running for your controller and allow Kubernetes to auto-scale that number up for you automatically without you having to do anything. And then once the workload cools down, then it will shrink back down to the size that you want that logical controller to be. Now, all we're doing right now is just talking about this as a new feature. I recommend that you go ahead and go take a look at the documentation for CloudBees CI high availability. Let's scroll down to feature enhancements. And for this release, there were a number of feature enhancements for CloudBees Pipeline Explorer. If you haven't had a chance to install that yet, I recommend that you do that and then come over and take a look at all the new features that are now available in this release. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the Resolve section. Along with a lot of the feature enhancements for CloudBees Pipeline Explorer, there are also a number of fixes for it as well. There are also a number of fixes for configuration as code for controllers. And also, towards the bottom of this section, you're going to see two callouts, a removal of prototype.js and also updated various plugins to be compatible with SnakeYAML 2.0. Right now in Jenkins, prototype.js is being removed, so CloudBees at the same time is also removing prototype.js from any plugins that were using it. And also the same thing with SnakeYAML 2.0, making sure that we're upgrading any of the older versions of SnakeYAML to the current version of 2.0. Now, if we scroll down, there are a couple of known issues, but these known issues have been around for a few releases, so nothing new there. Now let's go ahead and go back over to our release notes for Modern Cloud Platform. And there's only one different item for this release. If we go under feature enhancements, what we're going to see is an item, Windows Agent Container Images for CloudBees CI. Up to this point, if you wanted to use a Windows Agent Container image, you could just use the version from the Jenkins community. However, if you're wanting to use high availability mode that we were just talking about earlier, you must use the version that's now provided by CloudBees CI. If you have more questions about that, be sure to take a look at the documentation for high availability mode. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.